Madam
Welcome,
Tammy.
Dr. Rob. Hi, how
Hey,
are
how
you?
come you always say this is our podcast? This is with Dr. Rob. Why don't you say this is Dr. Rob and Tammy? You're
Well,
here.
I am, but I'm always here. So yeah.
Well,
So
that's
two,
true.
I'm always here. So yeah.
Well, that's
So
true.
yeah. So Dr.
Well,
Rob, I did
welcome
a
everyone.
great. Yeah, I know you did a podcast today, and I had an opportunity with Maddie Corman from Accidentally Brave to do a webinar. So it's been posted to our website. So if you missed out, highly encourage participating or watching that one. She's got a show Accidentally Brave on HBO, and she did a one-woman show in off Broadway, and it's her story and the emotions that she shares in the video, and then she was kind of telling the rest of the story and some of her some of her stuff. So please please consider watching that on the videos. It's posted on our website. But she did a great job. It was really a gift to have her join us and share some more. So anyway, and you did a podcast today, so
I
we've been
did.
doing stuff.
And it was really great because we talked about codependence. And I have to say, which is an alternative to codependency that I think is much more positive, and I wrote about. And I got to say, Tammy, she had her codependence book, and she'd highlighted it, and she had little notes in it, and it just made me. And she sees it, she gets it. So anyway, there'll be a lot of that going on, a lot of stuff going out. Tammy and I are on the podcast trail, so I'm looking forward
Yes.
to that.
Yes, I've got some more I'm scheduling for you as well. So people, we need some questions because we could talk, but in case somebody's not familiar, you said it's an alternative to codependency. So in case somebody's not familiar with the codependence, note that when people reach out to inquire about treatment, therapy, I try to make sure that we're referring to therapists both for the addict partner and the betrayed partner who are aligned with prodependence. So it's beyond the myth of codependency, but share just a snippet while we have a moment.
Well, I will actually, thank you. But did you mention the name of the podcast or put it in? Because so many people ask. And so
There'll be a
prodependence,
blog about it.
okay.
Yeah. So yeah.
So prodependence is an alternative to codependency, and I say the best way that I can. Um, the history in my field is if you're involved with an addict that love them, involved with them, in a relationship with them, that the first thing that happens once they get into treatment is they ask you what's wrong with you. How did you get in this relationship? Why in you this relationship? Why are you enabling this relationship? Why are you really asking the family member to take a good solid look at themselves? And I think that is cruel. I think when you have been living with an addict and involved with an addict and going through manipulation and really being victimized, that when you come into my office, I want to say to you, I am so impressed with you that you hung out with this person through all of this. I'm not saying stay forever, but the fact that you have willingly chosen to love a troubled person to me is a miracle. And by the way, I don't care if you did it right. I don't care if you did it wrong because you just did it. You tried to help somebody that you love. So this idea of picking you apart and looking your past, your mom, I just don't think that's what it's about. And that's what pro-dependence is about. So anyway, let's get to work, Tammy.
Well, so I'm going to read because one of my favorite things to do from the book, and this is the book, is codependent traits enmeshed, codependent trait deeply involved, codependent trait externally focused, codependent concerned about the welfare of others, codependent trait enabling, codependent supporting. You can see the theme of these. It doesn't it changes the behaviors, it changes the lens at which you're looking through things, that there's chaos and crisis and you're doing the best you can, rather than somebody pointing the finger at you going like, gosh, this has to be so hard and how can we support healing. So I did put a link to the book, and I also put a link to the previously recorded webinars too. So Dr. Rob, we do have a question. Go ahead.
Okay. And by the way, if you see me looking down, I'm not chatting with friends. I'm taking
Yes.
notes so I don't miss
Yes.
anything.
So the question is, betrayed spouse, my reluctant spouse has been gone for over a year. I did sort of confront my spouse about the behavior, affair, drugs, etc. I haven't really brought it up since. I love my spouse dearly. My question is, can I approach my spouse to talk about this again? If so, how do I even start?
You want to give it a start, Tammy, and I'll
So
get right
my
in there.
reluctant spouse has been gone for over a year. So wow, so I gotta start there, is like, what kind of communication are you in if that person has been gone for a year? Um, and then then here's like, how can you have a real relationship if you aren't talking about the hard stuff, and so to me, I hear you love them dearly, I get it, and I'm also going, but or do you love the idea of them because you can't really talk about the stuff that's challenging and be vulnerable and whatever. I mean, what you're sharing is a lot, the behavior, affairs, etc., drugs, so that sounds like there's co-occurring, addictive problems. What is your spouse doing in order to show that that person is on a recovery path that will be different? Otherwise, you have someone who will keep doing those things. And it's not a matter of confronting. I think it's about sharing, gosh, those behaviors were so hurtful to me, and I'm wondering what you're doing to change, and how committed you are to the relationship, etc. To me, this feels like, getting someone to talk with the two of you. And I'm going to just throw this out here. Dr. Rob does do a one-time expert consultation with couples. That could be really interesting. But if you guys are both seeing, qualified therapists, maybe both of your therapists with both of you. But it feels like you got to go back to, we've been gone, he's been gone for a year, so it
Right.
feels like there's a really big gap in there. What do you think, Dr. Rob?
Well, a couple of things. I wonder, and I've heard this before, Tammy, we've been separated for a year. But
Yeah.
I also hear we've been having coffee 3 times a week, and he or she sleeps
Oh,
over, and then we go away for the weekends. So, and I'm not saying you're doing that, but I think sometimes we stay a little too connected and we don't really take that time out. The other thing I want to say, sort of more generally, is if you choose to leave someone, if you ask them to leave, you don't do it to make them do something differently. You don't say, if I leave you, then you this. And if you don't do this, I'm going to leave you. If you're going to leave, you do it for you. I'm unhappy. I'm miserable. I can't live with this. This is what Tam would call a boundary, which is for me. And that's what a boundary is set for me so I can feel safe. What the other person does is what they do, you know? And in treatment, we do have a lot of people afraid of losing their relationships, but we have people who walk out. So I guess my question here is why? What do you expect to be different? If you didn't have an influence on this person before, if your love and care for them didn't make them want to get help, you know, I and there's, a year out of your life, I don't tell you to move on, but I will tell you that I'll tell you this, we hold on to people forever, in a good way, prodependence, meaning you may have hurt me, you may let me down, I left you, and 5 years later, I'm still thinking about you. Well, that's because we're deeply attached as human beings. We don't just throw somebody away in our hearts because they've hurt us. So I would ask you, is your longing to stay connected because you deeply care about this person and that makes you want to be involved with them again? Because they're separate. Like, I care about you, I love you, and it's not safe or okay with me. I also say this may be a grief issue, and I don't know how often you're seeing each other, but it sounds like you're looking for some kind of change, and I don't see how change would occur. By the way, I will say, since we're talking about our treatment programs, that we treat drugs and alcohol and sex. It's one of the things that we do because I'm very interested in the how these two pieces come together. A lot of people go to drug and alcohol treatment, they don't talk about sex. People go to sex addiction treatment, they don't talk about drugs. We approach all. So, and I'm very proud of that. Okay. Yeah.
yeah. Yeah. So a lot more there. Again, if you want information about, one-time expert consultation, reach out. Our team will be happy to talk to you about that as well. But I also, one more thing, I did put, we had a series of 4, should I say or should I go? And we can get these little, oh, I love him so much, and my heart will be broken without him, blah blah blah. And like, doing the journaling work that Kristen Snowden's webinar suggests could be really helpful for you too. So explore more of that. And when there's a separation, what is the plan? What are you looking to have, in order for this person to reunite? Like
Right.
this feels like, just like, oh, he's been gone for a year, and I love him, so there's more pieces to the puzzle there. So okay, so the next one is, as someone that is in recovery, I feel as though I have been seeing the world through a different lens. Is this typical?
I love this question because I love the word you use, which is lens, which is something that I put on, like a contact lens, or it means I am seeing the world differently. But I think it's important to say I'm seeing the world differently because I'm changing. And I'll give you an example. When I was an active sex addict many years ago, the way I dressed, the way I engaged people, the way I looked at them, the way where my head was going and engaging them, I wasn't, I had a goal. And the goal was often to seduce, to engage, even if it wasn't sexual. And when I pull all that down, I realized I can look at the world in a different way. And I can look at people. I might objectify for a moment, but I realize they're a human being and I don't want to stare at them and I don't want to flirt with them. And I can put that down. So for me, it's I look at the world in a different way, and especially my relationships with people. I don't want to use them. I don't want to take advantage of them. I don't want to look at them as an object. And that's because that's boundaries. I don't want to feel that way about myself. So yes, absolutely. What other people out there, let me tell a little story. I worked with a guy, he was in treatment, we were in a group, and he came in a little late and he said, I'm so mad. I said, what are you mad about? He said, well, I went to the mall and this woman was wearing a really short top and a really short shorts. And how could she do that when I'm in recovery? And talk about, flipping the switch. It's how he looked at her. It's how he was angry at himself. He didn't do anything wrong. So anyway, I think it's very typical. And by the way, I'm a little proud of you because if you're feeling that, you're doing good.
Yeah, I think in recovery, we have to look at the world through a different lens, because we are very self-focused in our addiction. And even, what Dr. Rob was talking about, the way you dress and the way, and objectifying, wanting to be objectified, wanting, the out
Right.
external, all of those things. And to learn the lens is I need to fill the hole in my soul. I need to be okay with myself, not looking for something else to make me okay, not looking to blame someone, not looking to, gaslight. Like it really does show up different. So yeah, this feels like you are on a good recovery path. But here's the thing, we don't ever arrive. We're never going to be like, oh, we're magically fixed. And now we don't have, like, we still have to do the work in order to, continue to be on that journey.
I want to add one
Sure.
thing, which is the world may not be fun in the ways that it was before. Seeking intensity, getting that intense rush. I think an example would be in drugs, in alcohol treatment, they have sober dances because they want people to understand that they can have joy and they can have fun without having to drink. And I think, acting out really works in the way it works, but you have to find a way. And let me just say this, getting sober from anything is really not about not doing anything. I say that it's about doing things. I'm not going to drink and I'm not going to, and I'm not going to have sex with it. How about I'm going to begin to enjoy my life and I'm going to focus on the people I love and I'm going to work in recovery. Those are the things, it's not doing, it's doing. And that really makes a difference in recovery.
But it's also not being um, compelled to do this really small world of like, oh, I have to drink, I have to do my sexual acting out, I have to do, like that's our world is really small and we're very, addiction is very isolating. And so, it's about doing, but also connecting with other people in a real and meaningful way. You talked about a sober dance. Talk about awkward. You go to a sober dance for the first time when the only way you've ever danced is, under the influence, like it's different and it's awkward and you get through it and you go, wow, this is really fun, and you remember the whole thing and you don't do stupid stuff at the end. It's like really good and it's really different. So yeah, it's a completely different lens and so worth it. So the next question, betrayer here, can you speak to the damage and betrayal trauma an emotional affair can have on a partner? My wife has been so damaged and hurt for years. I never understood how damaging this was for her. I'd just like to hear your take on emotional affairs. It seems in many ways this is more traumatic than a physical affair. A sexual affair that's transactional, like a sex worker, yeah, there's no emotional connection. I'm gonna share. I mentioned accidentally brave. Watch that. Make sure if you are sensitive, like newer in recovery, make sure that you've got some support for you before you watch it because you're going to see the pain of a betrayed partner. The acting out behaviors, like it's always hurt. And Maddie shared in the webinar, she goes, in her connection with other people, it's like the details are different, but it's the emotions. And you watch Maddie acting out what happened with her, and you will see to a degree what your partner has experienced. And I've heard that from other addicts. They've come to their partner and said, and now I have an inkling of what has been going on for you. But yeah, she pledged her heart to you. You guys said, I do, we're going to be together, it's you and me against the world. And then you're over there giving your heart to someone else. And so yeah, and it all hurts. Porn addiction hurts. sex addiction hurts, even transactional sex addiction hurts. Emotional affairs, long-term affairs, all of those things, it's all pain. It's all pain, and it isn't going to magically go away. And so I'd offer that you consider, I put the link up for the videos in there, and take a look at that. I think that would be a place to start. You might have an inkling when you see her acting it out. And it was real. She had tears streaming down her face. And I was like, you're an actress. And I know that wasn't acting. That was her real raw emotion. And she's 10 years out. And I'm not saying that to, scare away all the partners, but you're like, she was tapping into real stuff, for that. So very powerful. But Dr. Rob?
I wrote a book called Out of the Doghouse, a relationship saving guide for men caught cheating. And the reason I wrote Out of the Doghouse, which is my most popular book, is that men do not know how to heal the pain of betrayal. We think flowers, it's been 3 months. Let me take you on vacation. Isn't this a nice gift? And then we start thinking, it's been 3 months. It's been 6 months. When are you going to get over it? And the reality is, first of all, betrayal is it's like a knife in the heart. I think all betrayal is, because you can't trust that person when they walk out the door. I know in my relationship, when my spouse walks out the door, I know they're not going to do anything they know would hurt me. And yes, addicts do things all the time that they know will hurt you, and they do them anyway. So in part, I think it's the damage is trust. And trust is the backbone. Trust me, trust is the backbone of any relationship. I believe in you. I know you're there for me. You're going to have my back. This is a difficult world. Together, we're going to make it together. So when you break that, it really destroys what you both rely on for connection. And spouses, I have to say that our field has really moved to have great compassion and empathy for spouses. And the reason I wrote Doghouse is men don't have a clue. And and by the way, one of the things I wrote in there, and I think it's really important, is look, and it's a lot of stuff about you need to be humble, and literally, like, when they walk in the door, this is what you say. When they're angry, this is what you do. But what's lacking for us is humility. We have been so used as addicts to get it the way we want and having control over everything. And all of a sudden, we're not in control anymore. We don't have all the secrets. And I think that is addicts feel out of control around that. And what was I saying? One more thing. I don't remember, Tammy. Let's keep.
I did put the link because
Oh,
there's an Out of the Doghouse work group. It's been moved to a 12-week course. It used to be two 6-week courses. That will be starting March 31st. That is an offering. It's 90 minutes a week, live facilitated. There are other work groups. I put the link for all of them. The Betrayed Partner work group starts tomorrow. That is a 6-week course with Angela Spearman. I highly recommend that for partners. If you haven't already taken it, even if you go, well, I'm 3 months in or whatever, no, get the foundational stuff, get the support. She spends about half an hour going over lecture stuff, but then the next hour is talking and answering questions, and and so it's really good with those groups. So please consider those. Okay. So the next question, and we would love more questions. We usually run out of time for questions, so this is unusual. Thank you. My partner has been watching porn secretly for our entire 18-year relationship, and essentially for 55 years. He is 67 years old. 3 to 4 months ago, he admitted to it 2 to 3 times per week. He does not score highly on the PA test. He has had an affair in the first marriage, and he had an affair early on in our relationship. Nothing since in person. He's doing a lot of work, reading CSAT podcasts, groups, and recognized his lies and lack of intimacy, and is working on himself. Is this long-term therapy? Or no, is this lifelong therapy? How do we know?
well, I want to be respectful because I don't know you and I don't know your circumstances. But if you were a spouse and you were coming to me for therapy, I would say the man's lying through his teeth. You think he hasn't been with someone live? Really? He spent 18, and by the way, it wasn't like 2 or 3 times a week. It was every day. And he had affairs and he's done things in person. And I don't care how much work he's done. He is not telling you everything that's going on. And this is one of the challenges in relationships is if you know something or you found something as an addict, I don't want you to know more. because then I'll get in more trouble. So I'll only tell you the part you know. So if you find me looking at porn, and I say, "Oh my gosh, it's been 2 or 3 days a week," I'm lying to you. So, um, first of all, I don't think it's therapy. I don't think it's about therapy is lovely. This is about being a process of working with other people who are in recovery. It's much more about group. I think individual therapists can be easily manipulated. I know that's a surprise. We also tend to go toward, for example, I was in individual therapy and someone said, I'm so sick of this treatment thing, I'd say an individual therapy that must really hard for you, something like that. If an addiction treatment you came to me, I'd say, well, let's see, you destroyed your life, you destroyed everyone in your life, and you're bored with this and you don't want to do it anymore. So I think that a more confrontive, challenging treatment is always needed. And therapists, honestly, aren't very good at this. In fact, Tammy and I teach these courses because therapists do not necessarily know how to confront and challenge. So I feel like I'm breaking your heart, and I don't mean to. And as we say, we don't know you, but I have heard this story before. And when I have a spouse say, "Oh, well, I'm sure it's because this is what they said," I'm thinking, "Oh, that's what you want to hear, and we want you to believe that, but there's a lot more going on here." Yeah, and I'm sorry, but I would have, I don't know, Tammy, am I being mean? Am I being too hard on this?
Uh, so people often prefer to have the, oh, I'm sure he's doing really good,
Of
and
course.
but it doesn't change anything, but at the end of the day, what is your goal? I mean, he can keep doing this. You're saying he's 67 years old, and he's just admitted this. This stuff typically starts before age 10, and you're saying for essentially 55 years. So the so for 55 years he's had some problem and has minimized it, has lied to you, has lying to himself, whatever else. What is he doing like on a daily basis to start to shift that? So if he's going to 12 step, like he's just a little short time in. If he's going to 90 meetings in 90 days, great. What step is he working? How often is he talking to a sponsor? Is he doing our online work group? Is he already in? I mean, he qualifies for Sex Addiction 101, but even if he's already in the Porn Addiction 101, I did put the link in the chat. But like, what is he doing? Because you sitting there on the fringes going, I hope he does, I hope he does, I hope he does, is painful. And I did put the betrayed partners. I specifically put the link in for the betrayed partner group because he's going to do or not do. The sooner you get help for you and holding your healthy boundaries, understand more about the addiction you're dealing with. Addiction is a maladaptive coping mechanism. So whatever he, is doing is because he doesn't have the skills to do life. Now he can learn them, and you hope at 67 that he chooses a faster pace
Mhm.
than, decades of, kind of straggling along. But at some point he's going to do or not do, but what are you doing to take care of you? That would be, my question. And again, lean into, we've got all kinds of resources for betrayed partners from a pro-dependent lens. We're here to
That are
support.
free.
Yeah, a lot of free, but the work group is a fee. But what a good value. I mean, you are not going to go see a therapist. You should see a therapist too, or ideally, but you are not going to see a therapist for the price of, going to that work group. And you will have a solid foundation. And this kind of goes to the next question as well.
But I want to say a few
Okay.
more things about this
Okay.
question. He took a porn addiction test. Who filled it out? In what environment did he take a 425 question questionnaire, or what is it, 235, whatever
No,
it is?
the STI is over 600 questions. So yeah, if
Yeah,
he
so
filled that
our
out, I'd have a
to
pretty
what
good
degree?
indicator. Mhm.
And by the way, built, and you have to see a CSAT to give that.
Mm.
And so I just wonder, by the way, I will come home from therapy to see you and I'll say, "Oh, I just did fine on that test." I didn't. But why in the world would I tell you? Because I don't want you to. So again, I got to say a couple more things. Someone lied to you for 20 years or whatever it is, 30. Why would you think that they've stopped now? Why would you even think that? Let me just say this is important to me. Make sure you get a sexually transmitted disease test. Make sure, I don't think it's just porn. And no, regardless, you have to take care of yourself, and all you spouses. You don't know what we've been doing. You don't know where we've been doing it. Just hear the stories I heard about COVID and where people would go when grandma's in the house and I'd go out and see a sex worker. So we're crazy people when we're in it, and we don't protect the people we love on a whole bunch of levels. So please take care of yourself. I want to tell you, so in our treatment center, we only treat men. I only work with 8 people at a time, very small, very intensive. And we have men who come in and they're 66 and they're 72. And they're, and you think, why would someone come in at that age? No offense, I'm 63, but why would you come in when your life is pretty much, and the reality is that a number of things. I don't, what I say to these men are, do you really want to look in the mirror and see the life you've lived and say, I feel good about it? Do I feel good? What do I have to teach the people I love? Who do I want to be? And on a much lighter scale, what I say to them is, hey, you're 67. When you're 77, who's going to change your diapers? Who's going to give you your medication? Because this woman is not going to be the one. So anyway, I really enjoy working in treatment with the older men because I think they can use their wisdom for healing, but they've just shoved it aside. And um, anyway, and by the way, if you have grandkids, they don't get it. They don't see them. They don't understand it. I want the tree in a rocking chair on the patio celebrating your grandkids, but this isn't a scenario where that's going to happen in an honest, loving way. So
Well,
that,
if we're not in recovery, we're always, compartmentalized and fractured and, and behind a facade and, we are not living in integrity. And, so if we want to have integrity, and some addicts don't, but if we're willing to change, we can have an amazing good life. It isn't the intensity of acting out, but gosh, the connectedness and knowing that, people really care and are genuine. That's that's the difference, is not transactional, and even the emotional affairs are fake. There's no substance to them, and affairs are not real because nobody's paying the bills, nobody's taking out the trash, nobody's doing any of the hard stuff. It's all that illicit hoo stuff.
by the way, these are people I'd like to see for consultation.
Yeah.
I would like to sit down and challenge some of the things that don't sound right to me. And listen, I've treated hundreds. I've done this 30 years. I know what it sounds like when someone is trying to make the spouse feel better, and the spouse, as Tammy said, so wants to feel better that they buy into it. But you know what? He's going to be 65, or he's going to be 68, 72, and you're going to be still living with this. Yeah. So yeah, let's
So
just
the
keep
next
going.
question tags on with this: betrayed spouse. Are there some resources for betrayed spouse to learn more about addiction to understand our loved one? From what I understand, some part of addiction is connection issue, loneliness, etc., versus the substance behavior itself. Thank you. So I will say, for what, the
Tammy,
eighth
this is
time
a you
today,
question.
I know, but I was like, the betrayed partner work group. That's exactly, it's education, and you'll understand what healthy boundaries are. You'll understand what sex addiction is and isn't. You will have so much information and support. I can't recommend it enough. You can, I mean, you can wade through our podcasts and webinars and all that. We've got hundreds of hours, or you can attend a class and have, a group of people who will share phone numbers. You can share if you would like. We encourage that if you want, because then you'll have the opportunity to connect and go, hey, it's between meetings and I just am thinking about this or whatever. It's so good. Betrayed partners, do this for yourself so that you have more information and you're not operating in a vacuum or the lies that the addict partner is telling you. So, this is complicated stuff. It's why we recommend CSAT trained therapists, because regular therapists don't have the information about addiction, let alone sex addiction. So we want you to be like, this is challenging stuff. We want people to have the tools to be successful, and I put, should I stay or should I go? I mean, like, I think it's important, if you're early on, write it out. Don't just stay because you want to, you think you should stay or whatever. Write it out, and then you'll have it in writing. Yeah, I really want to stay, or I don't. Whatever it is, don't be afraid to examine this for what it really is.
I want to add some things, as
Mhm.
always, Tammy. I wrote a book, so I wrote 9 of them.
Mhm.
So I'm retired of
I
writing books,
think you wrote more than that. I think you lost
but one
track.
of them
So,
is called, well, workbooks. I'm not sure they count,
oh,
but one of them is called Sex Addiction 101. Another one is called Porn Addiction 101. These are basic primers. I always get that wrong, Tammy.
I always say primer, but yeah, whatever.
Okay, these are basic introductory books for addicts, but also for spouses. And by the way, you guys are always the first to read them because you read the book and you really want to understand it, and you throw it at us because we don't want to read it. But in any case, you can learn more. And there are a whole bunch of books oh, by the way, Tammy, Tami, at seekingintegrity.com. We give out more free resources than we do get people into programs or courses or whatever. We have, I think, and if you're looking for a therapist, honestly, Tammy has a pretty good sense of who does good work and who doesn't. So, and you don't want to caught in a situation, which I think we're going to talk about in a second, that doesn't work. Podcasts, right? The podcast has endless amounts of information, and that's completely free. I wanted to answer the question about connection, intimacy, and loneliness.
Please.
Um, I It's absolutely true that addicts are empty inside, that we feel a great sense of disconnection, that we look at you, we say, well, let me say it this way. You cannot fix a problem in intimacy and connection and loneliness when the person is still acting out. As long as I am, and that is the thing, because if I'm over there having sex with strangers and I come home and I have this family life, well, the reason we named our program Integrity is those are two different things. And I'm going to be lonely. And I'll tell you one of my favorite stories from codependence or something like that is the guy who has a really good day and he's taking care of the kids and he's helped his spouse out and he's feeling really good about it. But he went to a porn place in the morning or a sex club before he went and did all that. And his wife comes home and she says, "Oh, I'm so proud of you. You're the best husband in the world. You've been clean. You've been taking care of the kids. And I got to go out tonight. I really appreciate it." And what do you think he says to himself? Well, if she knew where I was this morning, she wouldn't be saying those things to me. So even all of us need deep appreciation to feel valued. But if you're an active addict, you don't take that in. You can't because you know why. So yes, those issues are in place, but the person has to deal with stopping the behavior and dealing with that first. And then there is room to look at those other issues.
I, I agree. And this sounds like you're very early in the process. So again, a Dr. Rob consultation for the two of you could be really helpful. So consider that. Okay, next question. Betrayed partner only 4 months since D-Day, but 30-year marriage. Both betrayed partner and porn addict have CSATs. I'm very distrustful of the CSAT. No discussion of therapy approach or possible timeline for disclosure, etc. Am I just projecting my distrust of PA and previous counselors who did not help me over the past 20 years?
Well, that's a complicated question.
It is.
But
I
I
mean,
will say,
there's a lot there. Yeah.
when I ran treatment and I did outpatient programming, by the way, D-Day, you want to explain what D-Day is, Tammy, before I?
Discovery Day. It's not formal therapeutic disclosure. So, which they're alluding to possible timeline for formal
Mhm.
therapeutic disclosure. But D-Day is my
I
world
found
blew up
out.
4 months ago. Yeah.
So I agree with Tammy, this is really early, but I will tell you this. When I did outpatient treatment, I would see someone and I'd say in 6 weeks, you're going to do this disclosure. And I would say to that spouse in six or whatever it is, 10 weeks, but you knew very concretely when this was coming. And during that period of time, we were working on nothing. You as a partner are working on what are my questions and how am I going to manage that? And what support do I have? And what do I think is going to happen once I hear this? The addict is working on going through a timeline and succinctly and carefully learning about what they did and having clarity. So when the two of you come together, there is a disclosure. I think this is me. I think it's kind of cruel to tell a spouse, well, you'll just wait a year or 6 months or whenever we get to it. I also think the addict is very good at saying, oh, I'm not ready. That's going to be really hard. So my answer to you is, and Tommy, can you weigh in on this? Because you're
Yeah.
probably,
Well, I have a thought because what I hear is it sounds like you trust your CSAT. So I would actually encourage you to, and hopefully there's a release assigned because otherwise, I mean, that would be part of the process, particularly if you're moving towards formal therapeutic disclosure. But, I think lean into your therapist and say, I would like to know, and could you schedule a conjoint session for both of your therapists and both
yeah.
of you so that you with your support person can say, "Hey, I don't know, what the treatment plan is. I don't know when formal therapeutic disclosure is. I don't know, where he's at. I don't know, have you given the
Right.
online assessments? You just, and really, here's the other aspect of it. is what are you seeing at home, so that you can share with his therapist and provide collateral information that would be useful for his therapist to know. Is because here's, if you're, and I don't know, but if you're only hearing through your addict's lying lips, you don't know what his therapist has said or not said, and so it really would require, and you may be dead on that, but there's a lot of possibilities here.
Right,
And I'm kind of wondering if you could be curious and like not, be on the, like,
right,
but just be curious, ask your therapist, what, do you have releases? And there should be, and, can you tell me more about this? Are you hearing from his therapist about this? Is there a plan? And if you're not getting satisfactory answers, could we schedule a meeting for the four of us so that we can have a
right.
conversation and get a plan? Then you'd have a plan, and then I think that might help you better gauge, what really is going on and what isn't. So, but there's a lot of unknowns in this.
Sammy, did you really
What?
say lying lips? I gotta
The
say,
lying
like,
lips of
that
an
is so
addict.
cute. I
No, it's
love that
not if
phrase.
you're someone on the
I
receiving
know,
end of
but
this, but
let me
yeah.
say one more thing about this is you really don't know what's going on. And I
Hmm.
agree with Tammy. I think it's easy to jump on the therapist. Forget your projections and all that. That's like
Hmm.
too therapy-ish for me.
Yeah.
I can see the addict saying to their therapist, my spouse isn't ready. They're not ready to handle it. And then they go home to you and say, well, my therapist, I'm talking about it. I'm not sure that I'm ready. So we have really good lying lips. I'm going to use that, Tammy. And I can talk of so many people. And by the way, we don't just lie to you. We lie to our 12-step group. We lie in our group therapy. We lie to our therapist.
To ourselves.
We lie to ourselves. And this is, I think, one of the greatest challenges for addicts for sure, is to be completely honest in the face of the threat of someone being angry at you or disappointed in you, because that's what integrity is. I don't hide behind what I don't want you to know. I just tell you what's true. Yeah. Can I give a story about that?
Please.
Or Tammy, do you think so
No, please.
I'm in a 24-year relationship with a man, been married since 2015. And recently he said, I trust you. And I thought, 24 years? What do you mean? And I understood what he meant, which is he doesn't like when I'm late. Really bothers him. It's like one of those big things. So when I'm late, I say, oh, I stopped at the grocery store. Or, I got held up in a meeting or whatever it is. And this is true, I'm being honest with you guys. And we had this discussion. He said, why don't you just tell me what's going on? I may be angry. Why don't you say I'm running late? I won't like it, but I will trust you. And our relationship has, and I told him, you know what? No matter what, I'm going to tell you the truth, no matter what. And believe me, now I hear that, I'm not sure that's true. I'm like, no, I'm committed to the truth, whether you like it or not. And I have to say, my relationship is better because it isn't about the behavior. It's about, as I said, the backbone of relationship is trust. You may not like what I said. I may be afraid to say it to you, but this is what brings us closer. This is what intimacy is being willing to take the risk to open up your heart and mind to someone, knowing that they may not like it, they may be disappointed in it. That kind of vulnerability is how you grow intimacy. No active addict can ever be intimate because we're full of lies. So anyway, so we're getting along better. And now I say I'm running late. And I shouldn't have stayed there that long. And I'm really sorry I upset you. And although sometimes I say I won't do it again, and I kind of do sometimes,
You
but I
should not
tell the
ever do
truth.
that.
But I
Yeah.
tell the truth. Well,
Yeah.
oh, you're
Yeah.
right.
Leave that last part off. I'm running late.
Hey, I'm
I should have left
imperfect. What can I
earlier.
say?
I will try to do better. That would be okay. So,
There you
okay.
go.
Yeah. I'm the addict with 70 days of no acting out. What are some things I can do to rebuild trust besides the obvious things like sharing location, going to 5 meetings a week, seeing a CSAT, et cetera? So so 70 days, yay. And here's the deal. That's just abstinence. That's just not doing what we weren't supposed to be doing. I love hearing that you're working on, you know, you're going to 5 meetings a week. That's great. Hopefully you're working with a sponsor, you're working the steps. Hopefully, at this point you're already in step 4. That'd be fantastic. You know, but like trust is rebuilt over time. I don't know how long you were acting out, but like that's gonna take a bunch of time. So of you doing the right thing. So it isn't, yeah. So when I hear, a lot of guys going like, how do I help her heal? And I'm like, you do your work, and you don't show up and be a jerk like you were. You start to learn to do things differently, and that will build trust over time. But there's no quick fix. Dr. Rob alluded to the book, Out of the Doghouse, and I put the work group information in there, and that is all good stuff, and it still will take time. It isn't like, oh, you did the right thing today, and like if he shows up on time, with his spouse isn't going to go, oh, you're all better now and you're never going to do that to me again. He shouldn't. This will probably happen again. I'm not picking on you. But it's like one of those
It's
things where
okay.
it takes
It's just
time
being
to
late.
build
It's
trust.
not.
Yeah, yeah. But like those behaviors are patterns. And why would doing it right once or a couple times show that, oh yeah, we've got this all handled. So do your work, keep doing it, and
Mhm.
over time, your actions you will appear different. You will show up differently for yourself, and for others. Thoughts?
Well, the question, what are some things I can do to rebuild trust? Nothing.
Yeah.
It is too
Well,
early after
do your
two.
recovery work.
But you do the
Yeah.
work for
Yeah.
you. You
Yeah.
don't do it to rebuild trust. That person may trust you or not. And by the way, it could take a year or more before they even begin to develop trust. You go to these meetings, you get the support, you do these things because you want to heal. And I think that's, one of the things we see in the treatment program is I have men come in and I ask them, I have to say, like, we go around the room, why are you here? Well, I want to be a better person. I want to be a better therapist, better parent. And then I say, well, didn't you want that 5 years ago? Like, why do you? Well, my spouse is leaving me. Well, I have a problem with work. So we aren't really honest with ourselves. And that's what Tammy talked about later is I think you need to take some time and really, why are you even focused on restoring trust? Why aren't you focused on taking care of you and doing the right things? You can't restore the trust. You can just do what you need to do. It isn't your trust that's been broken. It's theirs. And it's going to take them time to begin to. So I do worry a little bit about this when I hear I'm going to all these meetings, I'm doing all this work, and I think, but I want to rebuild trust. And I hear you do. I really do. I'm not doubting that you want the love and connection and you want your partner to cheer for you. Oh, I have to tell another story now. So I work with addicts who, let's say a guy get 6 months, okay, more than you, got 6 months sober, and he goes to his 12-step meeting, and everyone says, oh, how great. And they pass a little chip around, and everyone says, good for you. You've got 6 months or 6 weeks or whatever it is. And then he goes to this group therapy, and everyone says, oh my God, that's so great. You got this time, and how wonderful. And then he goes home to his spouse, and she says, big effing deal. You cheated on me for 11 years, and I'm supposed to cheer because you have 6 months of not doing it. I think that is, we do need the validation. We do need the support. We do need to be cheered for, but that person is not the person who should we expect. In fact, it's cruel to expect them because they have to put themselves aside to begin to focus on us. And as Tammy said, a spouse's job is to take care of themselves, their self-care, their boundaries, not to focus on you and saying, oh, you're doing so well. I really trust you now. How long have you been doing this? And we don't know this, but I have a feeling this has been going on a while. So in any case, good on you that you're doing this work, but you're looking in the wrong direction. By the
So
way,
I had
when
this
men who
thought.
come in, I'm sorry, go ahead, Tammy. You go ahead.
I was gonna say, rather than building trust, I wonder if I focus on becoming trustworthy, where I'm doing the work that I need to do on me, that ultimately, can build trust, because nobody can trust somebody who's not trustworthy. But if I flip it to, I need to do the work to become trustworthy. And if you're doing 12 step, that if steps 4 through 9 are, cleaning house, and that's where we do, that's where the rubber meets the road, and we have to do the work in order to change, and we can if we're willing to do the work. So focus on, I need to become trustworthy, and that lens shift, I think, will help you, identify what you need to do for you in your recovery program. So
I want to just add one thing.
mhm.
I have a feeling this person doesn't just lie to their spouse. When
Oh
you're
no.
looking to rebuild trust and be accountable and grow, I want you to think about every single person in every single situation. And this is where it comes up in the 12 steps. Because if you want to be trustworthy, you don't get to be trustworthy with your spouse. They're not going to feel that you're clean around that. My spouse at 24 years didn't trust me because I was not doing what I said I was going to do. And 24 years in, but it's only groceries. I know it's only groceries, but that doesn't make an excuse. 24 years. And I said, what do you mean you don't trust me? Well, I don't trust when you're going to the grocery store that you're really there. Those little things really matter. So think in your life about what other situations, what other people have you left them. By the way, if your wife doesn't feel trusting, these other people don't either. So I would take a good look at that. You have integrity, seeking integrity in all parts of your life. Okay, let's keep moving,
Again,
Tammy.
steps 4 through 9 really help. Okay, I have a porn addiction and had disclosure through my therapist in November. I am trying my best, watching 1 or 2 podcasts a day and read several books, Doghouse and Removing the Shame. My wife and therapist wants me to attend 12-step program. I want the best possible one. I have options for you, and I'm going to put them in the chat. But I'm like, oh yes, and here's the deal. Sorry, but
No, you're a Valley
I
girl.
no,
Yes.
yes, yeah. So when I hear I'm reading books, I mean, his books are all good, and you know what? There's no accountability. Listening to podcasts again, it's all passive. There's no
Mhm.
interaction. You're still isolated. You're still going like, yeah, I'm doing a good job because I'm doing these. I'm checking off the boxes. So yes, your wife and therapist, yay for them. I'm going to put Scott and I did a webinar February 7th of last year of 2024 about how to navigate the 12 steps. I'm going to put the link for, well, actually I put the link in there already for the previously recorded webinars. I'll probably do that again. Then our work group, and
Mhm.
you have a porn addiction. I already put in the chat porn addiction 101 work group that starts. So check that out. That's 90 minutes a week, live facilitated. You'll meet other people. You can exchange phone numbers. Then we have drop-in groups. You join anonymously, but like it's like this where I can see Dr. Rob, and no, it's not recorded, but then you'll get people. We have guys that have been showing up for years to those groups, and there's different ones throughout the week. So all of those would be connection points rather than passive listening, to things. So I will type all of those in the chat. But yes, we have lots of things that would be beneficial for you. And then your wife is going to go, wow, I see him doing the work, rather than just reading a book. No offense to Dr. Rob, the author. So
Well, there are other wonderful people who've written about this too, for sure. Um, so what is the right program for me? I think you need to try some out. Why wait? There is Sex Addicts Anonymous, SAA. Go online, go to a couple of their meetings, see how that feels. There's SLAA, Sex and Love Addicts Anonymous. There's SA, Sexaholics Anonymous. There's PA, Porn Addicts Anonymous. So rather than thinking, oh, which is the one, and no offense, I'm sorry, I shouldn't say it sarcastically, which one is the best one for me? All of them. I think
yes,
you
and
do
that's what
need to
Scott and I said in the webinar. So
tell them who Scott
yes,
is because they don't.
Scott is our colleague, and he and I do a webinar once a month. And I was like, this like with AA or with alcohol, you go to AA, it's easy. With the S groups, there's a whole bunch of them, and so we have a whole list on our website. And then we talked about how do you decide which one, and he did a great job of talking about that. And then we unpacked the myths of 12 step, because there's lots of, oh, my sex addict's going to learn something new. No, like he's going to get triggered. I mean, all of those things, so that would be helpful. And then, so I just put 2/7 of 24 is the webinar on navigating the 12 steps. We've talked about it other times too, but that one was solidly on navigating the 12 steps. And then I'm putting you made it to the webinar. So on the same link as the webinars is our drop-in groups. Those are all great and free. So, join the drop-in groups, put them in your calendar so you don't forget.
There is a little bit of narcissism in here, I think. I want the best one, like the best. Why don't you just go?
Yeah.
They're all the best. It's one that fits you. And it feels a little bit like they want me to. Just why don't you? Like what? Why
Yeah.
are they wanting you? You could have started already. So feel them out, see what you like, see what you don't like. I don't suggest mixed gender meetings. I don't think that I think they're distracting. So see what you like and yeah, go every day. Pick one out. Fortunately, we have a Zoom world, so you don't have to go to no offense, just to a cold church basement in the rain to, right, Tammy? You're like puddles on the floor. And we still do, but
Yeah. Yes. And we've got clubs and things. Yeah. There's all kinds. So check those out. I know those resources will be helpful, and don't spend 18 days, trying to decide which one. Do like Dr. Epps, make a commitment. Tomorrow I'm going to do and do.
Did you hear that woof woof? I have to say, did you hear the woof?
I did not.
Oh, I guess a
Okay,
woof. I have a big dog, so she's a woofing.
there you go.
Okay.
Okay, I'm 14 months since D-Day, great sobriety with porn. But I have told three stupid lies in the last 2 months. Two were fear-based regarding childhood. The other was an unintentional lies that I said I had not signed up to a website yet when it was proven I did not shift to supporting her. I defended the truth that I did not remember. Is this a slippery slope? Oh, is this a slippery slope back into addiction? She has no tolerance for lies and requires total honesty and transparency to move forward. I'm worried that I'm missing something.
Well, I think honestly, and I don't mean to simplistic, but this is a pretty simple answer, which is a lot of us are fearful about telling, I'm looking at that angry face and I'm thinking the last thing I want to do is tell them more. I have an agreement, or I don't, well, I could use this agreement. I don't have one, but people in recovery have one, which is within 24 hours. Well, I have it with clients.
Mhm.
I'm going to tell you the truth. I may not be in this moment able to do it, but I'm going to come back to you in 24 hours and say, you know what? I wasn't honest with you. And in other words, don't make them wonder. Don't make them find it. Tell them, it may be difficult to come up with it in the moment. But what's it? If you hear that,
Your
okay.
transparency must be working. So yeah.
No, I know, but I get it. Okay. Anyway, that's what's important to me is that you don't have to. And I used to say to clients, honestly, I would say when they'd come in for the first time, I know you're lying to me. It's okay. Everybody lies. But can you, next week when you come in, I want to hear what you did, or leave me a voicemail? Because being honest is practice. You've been lying forever. So, I may not be able to play tennis the first time I try, but it is really, and is it slippery slope back into addiction? I don't know. I mean, to me, this could be a growth issue, which is I'm looking at I used to look at the real problem, now looking at a much higher level, which is, I'm not being honest about whether I took the garbage out. Um, there was something else in here. Oh, unintentional lies. There are no unintentional lies. And so it isn't unintentional. There is no such thing. I don't want to get in trouble. I want to minimize it. Yeah, what is an intention? I'm sorry, Tammy, what is an
It,
unintentional lie?
I'm in denial that I didn't really mean to do that. To me, that that's just an excuse. But I'm with you, and I will disagree in that I do think you're on a slippery slope. You
Oh,
named three lies in the last 2 months. You didn't clean them up quickly. Had you come to your spouse and said, yesterday when I said that, that was not the whole truth, lies of omission are the
right.
same as lies of commission, so, it's like, well, it wasn't that. No, it's all bad. And so here's what I hear is I'm hanging on to this and I know about this. And then I'm going to feel shame about this and fear, and that's where the slippery slope is, that like look, I'm already down this path, she's going to be mad, and so then people can be quick to throw in the towel. So so this would be one of those that perhaps you tell you sit down with your, can we have a difficult conversation? If it's a nice time to have it, not 10 o'clock at night when you're getting ready for bed,
Right.
or
Or
when
kids
you're
are
on
running
your way out the
around. Right.
door, to go to work,
Right.
and say, I need to tell you some things. And I've been holding on to this and I don't want to hold on to this. And so you share that. And I know you're going to be angry at me, and I'm, and I'm willing to take the consequence, because this is the kind of stuff she's going to find out. This is the kind of stuff that, oh, well, she hasn't found out for 2 months. She'll find out in next week. And then she's going to be irate, understandably, because you didn't clean it up. So I would invite you, to do the cleanup. Do it yourself. Take responsibility for it. She'll be mad, and maybe she'll go, but this is different than he's ever
Mhm.
done. That would be a sign of working to build trust. You got a long ways to go, but it would be a sign. So
And I just want to add something that I think is really important, is that trust is not something that is in one area, it's in all areas. So once you break trust, you lie. What your spouse thinks is, well, what else are they lying about? So even the simplest thing well, if I can't trust him with that. So this is a time where everything in that way matters, because they are trying to build trust with you. And even the simplest thing is going to lead them into thinking, well, they're lying, but now they're lying about this and lying about that. Um, there's something else they said. Um, Two, where fear-based childhood. Mm, I don't think that it's okay to look at something and say, well, that's the reason I lied. You lied because you lied. You know, it's like addicts, they say, oh, I didn't mean to act out. I had a bad day. You meant to act out. It was a choice. Well, my spouse is really angry and they've gained all this weight and they're making me miserable. And great, go for a walk. Divorce them. But the only solution to an unhappy situation is not to start lying and acting out. So you are building mistrust in this situation. Yeah, but you know what? You asked. And by the way, folks, I talked about being late and I appreciate that. I demonstrated that for you. I made myself vulnerable. I told you something that I might feel make you not look good at me, that I lie about being late. But I hope that you thought, oh, wow, he's a therapist and he's telling us that. Wow. I'm role modeling that because I want you to see this is intimacy. If I share that with you and that you think, oh, well, there's a guy who's telling his truth, you're going to feel better about it and you're going to get closer to me. Okay, we have time for one more, Tammy.
Well, but I want to take it. So, and going to your spouse and saying, I want to I need to have a difficult conversation. And then going, well, because of my childhood, I lied to you.
Right,
That's
right.
not taking responsibility. And
Hmm.
it's almost looking for like a pass. And like in recovery, we take ownership of our stuff. The lie was yours. The past, you can't make that unhappen, but it's how you move forward and what you do with it, and otherwise you will always be chained to that past and using that as an excuse for poor behavior moving forward. And you don't have to. Okay.
I didn't mean to lie to you. Yeah, you did.
Yeah, that would not go over well.
Yeah, you
I
did.
I lied. I did not tell you the truth. Lies of omission or commission. And it's okay to say I was fearful of your reaction, but that's not an excuse. And here's what the truth is.
And I really appreciate you're talking about omission, Tammy, because a lot of addicts think, well, what they don't know won't hurt them. And if they find something out, well, I'll tell them that. But lies are hiding things from people that you don't want them to know. It's a lie. It is a hidden lie, which makes it even worse. And so I want to say to you addicts, if you're thinking that, oh, well, I'm not lying. I mean, it's just I didn't let them know about this. You're lying. And that's going to build the same mistrust as if you told them something that wasn't true. It's the same thing.
It
Okay,
is.
we have time for one
Okay.
more,
One
Tammy, to
more.
sneak one more
Betrayed
in.
partner. My sex addict partner finally was diagnosed 6 months ago and we had full disclosure. But all the gaslighting, trickle truth, I found out more and he is still lying. I am separated now and he is saying he has to focus on quitting smoking for his COPD. So he has to prioritize that. He said he isn't affected anymore about his sex addiction. It is a real physical health problem, a reason to stop working on recovery. He just seemed to drop everything. And I'm
I'm not sure
thinking,
who wrote this. Was it
this is a betrayed partner. It says betrayed partner. My addict. So the addict partner
but at the
is working
bottom it
on
says,
sex.
I have a sponsor. He said, other men
No,
in
no,
my
no.
fellowship.
No. This is
Oh, I
no.
skipped one. I'm
I
sorry.
Yeah. You skipped. Yeah. So yeah. So no. This is yeah. This is
Okay, go ahead.
the six
528.
628. Yeah.
Mhm.
528 for you. Yeah. So you have someone who has multiple addictions, smoking, sex addiction, and whatever else, and they're choosing to do the compartmentalization of like, well, I'm all good with that. You're not good with that. You're separated, and focusing on that. So you have an addict in active addiction. Working on stopping smoking is a good thing. Dr. David Fawcett talks about that all the time. But if there's still denial about, the sex addiction, anytime somebody says, oh, it's not a problem anymore, it's a massive red flag for us. We're going like, it's going to be a huge problem again. So you said you're separated. I would be really curious what you're doing to take care of you. I had shared those, should I stay or should I go? That's helpful. But you have, in my opinion, working, our residential treatment program, they work on co-occurring addictions. So the smoking, they're not allowed to smoke at our residential program, and
Mhm.
they'd be working on the sex addiction. And if there's a food problem, and if there's a gaming problem, and if there's a whatever,
Well, we
all of
help
those
them
things would
not
be worked
smoke. We
on.
just don't
Right.
say you can't smoke. But I'm sorry, Tim. I want to make sure that
No.
people, they're dedicated. A part of our job is to help people become healthy in as many ways as we can. And I don't think, again, it's okay to say, well, this is a problem, but or I'll get to that one later, or they're killing themselves anyway. They're destroying their life and their relationship. You left after all this time. So he's lying. By the way, full disclosure means you sit down with a therapist and you tell everything and you put it all on the table. Well, they're still lying. So to me, this is not someone, I'll tell you what, they're not prioritizing you. They're not prioritizing their family. They're not prioritizing the fact that, what aren't they prioritizing? I have another one, Tammy. I ran out of priorities. This is,
They're hanging on to, yeah, like, okay, I'll work on
right,
this, but I'm still hanging on to all of these other
right.
things. Yeah. So,
Oh, and it's not as much of a problem as that. Like there's
yeah,
scales, and you
yeah.
can say, anyway, I am really glad that you're not, they're not living there. I'm glad you're separated because, and I'm not glad you're separated, but because I believe in love and relationships. But to sit around and watch that, I just think would be so painful for you that you have, again, boundaries. You've taken care of yourself and put yourself in a situation where you're not being lied to, you're not being trickled truth, you're not being abused. And I admire you for that. It's dinner time. I got to pay my
So,
wolf eat
so somebody asked about Kimba. Do you have
about my
any way of
doggy.
showing, yeah, showing a picture of Kimba? Can you turn the
I
camera
don't
on to
know if I
Kimba?
can. It's a screen share thing, right? Share. Oops, share
I don't know.
photos.
Oh, do you have
Okay.
a, oh yeah,
Can
yeah.
you see that? Okay, hold
Um,
on a second. I will. Okay, so should I tell them to show her the glamour shot? So we've been staying hotels because we've been in very difficult circumstances since our fires have happened, and so she decided. Can you see that?
oh my gosh, that's so adorable.
She loves room service. My
Yes.
dog just loves sitting around and lying in bed while other people take care of her. So although I can relate to
Huh.
that,
I was just gonna say,
so
huh, who does that remind me of?
oh, can I stop this? Oh, I'm
Okay,
drawing on it. Anyway,
stop
that's the
share.
best I can do. But
No,
she
that
is
was awesome. Thank you for sharing.
110 pounds of absolute love. And I will say this, when me and my spouse and the dog are in bed, Tammy, that's over 500 pounds. My bed's are going to collapse. Um, Good working with you, Tammy. It always is. And thank you all. I hope we
Thanks,
can be of service.
everyone. Yes.
Bye for now.
Take, bye.